And returning now to the diplomatic crisis between Israel and the Obama administration over plans to build more apartments in the Ramat Shlomo neighborhood of Jerusalem. Joining me here in the studio is Dr. Gershon Baskin, CEO and founder of the Israel-Palestine Center for Research and Information. Dr. Baskin, thank you for coming in this evening.
Good evening.
Well, Washington is angry. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton apparently chewed the Prime Minister out for about 43 minutes, saying it was a deeply disturbing signal that Jerusalem had sent to announce these housing starts during the Vice President Biden's visit. Are we going to see a change in policy on the part of the Barack Obama administration as a result of this?
I don't know. It's impossible to say. Until now, the Obama administration has mostly used words, and there hasn't been action to follow that up. There has been no real pressure on the State of Israel to implement its roadmap commitments. The freezing of settlements is a 2003 commitment made during the time of George W. Bush. And the Obama administration did put significant pressure on the Palestinian Authority to come into negotiations now. I've been told by a very credible source on the Palestinian side that they received a written commitment from the Obama administration that there would be no building starts in Jerusalem during the time of negotiations now. If this is true, and I believe it is, the issue of the announcement of the Ramat Shlomo building was not an issue of timing. It was an issue of substance. And I think this is why we see the very strong American reaction.
Some on the Israeli left, and I think including yourself, would like to see the White House take the kid gloves off now with regard to Israel, and maybe some tough love applied here to get the Israelis in line, so to speak.
I would much prefer to see the United States pull out the big carrots rather than the big sticks. I think there are significant incentives that the United States could provide for Israel and for the Palestinians that would encourage them to make the steps that they need to take. I would say to Mr. Netanyahu, and to all Israelis, if we want to build in Jerusalem and the neighborhoods of East Jerusalem beyond the Green Line, let's agree on a border with the Palestinians. We all know that Israel is going to be annexing certain percentages of the West Bank that will enable Israel to have sovereignty over those areas. We can't build in there unilaterally prior to negotiations. That's creating facts on the ground, and that upsets, that prejudices the outcome of negotiations. So let's move forward with the negotiations. Let's set the border, and then we'll know what's ours and what's theirs.
How do you think this happened at a time when the Vice President of the United States was visiting here? Was this orchestrated on the part of the Netanyahu government, or somebody trying to embarrass the Prime Minister,
That's the
or
conspiracy
just a
theory.
foul-up?
I don't know. It's very difficult to determine. It seems to me that if there was, in fact, a commitment of the United States to the Palestinians that there would be no building, then Mr. Netanyahu had to have given a green light for that. Perhaps he didn't inform the other members of his government. Apparently he was not intending to make a public announcement. Something was missed here that allowed this announcement to be made at the time of the Vice President's visit, and that was clearly could be accrued to Israeli balagan.
Well, a series of Israeli governments have made it clear since 1967 that Jerusalem is and will remain the undivided capital of Israel. Why the big fuss over this neighborhood in Ramat Shlomo? It's not as if it's way out in the West Bank. It is actually just not very far from where you and I are sitting. In fact, we can see it from the windows.
It's not just the point of Ramat Shlomo. There are Israeli building plans for all over East Jerusalem, and perhaps of most concern to the Palestinian Authority are the Israeli plans to build within the Palestinian neighborhoods in East Jerusalem, in Silwan, in Sheikh Jarrah, in Jabal Mukaber. And this is all an indication of Israel continuing to act unilaterally. We have to remember that at the time when Netanyahu was Prime Minister last time, Har Homa was built. There were those of us who believed that Har Homa would never be built, but Har Homa is now a fact on the ground that Palestinians have to contend with, and they view it as more territory that they have lost.
And yet, with Har Homa being built and all the dire warnings beforehand, it's very peaceful out there.
It is very peaceful out there, but Jerusalem will not be a city of peace and will not be recognized as the capital of Israel by the international community until it's also recognized as the capital of Palestine. So we have to recognize that there are two Jerusalems. There's an Israeli Jerusalem, there's a Palestinian Jerusalem. Even Arafat, who we hated to negotiate with, had agreed to the principle that Israel would have sovereignty over the neighborhoods built beyond the Green Line within the municipal boundary. The Palestinians can't agree to that principle if we keep building more and more.
Dr. Gershon Baskin, good to have you with us. Thank you.
Thank you.